disruption. Here's Nikunjan conversation with HCL Tech Vijaykumar on the road ahead for business.
This is really not a time to be complacent and saying that we saw the cloud wave, we saw the digital wave, now there is a AI wave and we will navigate it. Because the pace of change and the significance of what AI can do, a lot of work. But every service industry is getting significantly disrupted. So I truly believe IT services industry is at an inflection point, and we should not be complacent. If we can be more proactive in adopting to the changes, talk to our clients about what is the art of the possible, and really walk this path with that kind of a mindset, and not with a mindset to protect your revenue base and protect your existing footprint. Because if you don't do it, somebody else will do it. You have to be proactive about what this technology can deliver for the clients. And it is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a journey, but you have the right proof points to build conviction as you go through the journey. Then it's a matter of change management. How are you really driving this change within your organization and in your client organization to kind of drive adoption and finally the outcomes from the technology.
You would appreciate the spirit of my next question, which is that if I look at the last waves, which is from mainframe to enterprise and from enterprise to SMAC and SMAC to digital, now AI, these transitions have lasted for 3 to 4 years. And post that, clarity in a sense has emerged. The AI wave has already lasted for 3 years and yet there is no clarity. Is this wave different because the earlier waves are centered around technology, this one is centered around manpower?
No, I think this is a lot more technology intensive, but it does have a potential. It is already kind of taking out a lot of productivity, and I do believe this wave is quite different and much more significant and profound than any other waves that we've seen. Like you can kind of classify as internet, you can say cloud, then you had digitization, and now AI. I think if the comparison should be more towards internet and rather than digitization and cloud, because they were just incrementally leveraging technology for business and building business models which is pivoted around technology. But here AI is, somebody compared it to electricity, right? What electricity can do has been quite unimaginable, right? So I think it's a long-term change. And it is complex, it is going to scale, but I think people can simplify it. Because eventually when you start consuming everything, it needs to be in a simple way. And I think that is a journey that industry needs to go through.
HCL Tech for the longest time has been beating market estimates. They've been growing at a rate which is higher than the industry average. Your margins may not be the best in the industry, but your growth is the highest in the industry. Any change in that template or that policy will sustain?
I think margins is definitely we are all in the same industry, and some business mix change could mean different margin profiles. But the way we see it is delivering a few percentage points higher growth at stable margins creates much more value than increasing your margin by 1 or 2% and delivering a lower growth. If you do a math, you will always find out that growth has a premium, of course, at a stable margins. I think that's the template that we've followed, and it allows us to invest in what is right. What is right to remain relevant for your clients. I think even today, I'm sure a lot of investors always want us to deliver higher margins. But it's not that we are not delivering higher margins, but we are reinvesting in expanding our sales or investing in all the right capabilities. So I think it's a balance that we have to achieve always.
But every company, like a traditional engineering company or manufacturing company, would say that we are going through a capex cycle. In IT terminology and for HCL Tech, how long will this investment cycle continue? Is there a time frame you can give?
It's not so much of a capex cycle, because most of our capability and solutioning, all of that is really, it's all a part of our operating expenses. And I think right now there is a big opportunity that we all have to encash on. So maybe at least in the next 3-4 years, we will have to invest in all the right areas to remain relevant. It's more than growth and margins. I think the biggest outlook for any leadership in this industry should be, are we being relevant? Is our relevance being questioned? And how can you remain relevant with all the changes? I think if you approach it like that, you will end up doing the right thing in the long run.
At what rate do you think the total addressable market for Indian IT companies like TAM is growing?
If you take the Gartner's forecast in FY24, it was to grow at around 4.5%. Gartner is expecting it to go to maybe 5 or 6%, depending on which service line that you're talking about. So that is the increase in the overall spend. Now, you may ask why Indian companies have not grown so much. I think there is some deflation in some markets, and every company has their own challenges. But if you ask me, is there a big opportunity there? I would say a resounding yes. And we just need to see how to translate that into growth.
Markets are always vote for one simple thing, rate of change. If the rate of change in last 2 years has become from good to bad, stocks have come down. When bad is becoming good, markets will start rewarding it. Can I say that incrementally and sequentially now, we will see improvement in your performance? It may not be marked, but in terms of a trajectory, slow but steady. It will be going up rather than staying flat or come down. Can I get a sense on that?
I think the way to look at it is, one is the overall growth, and the second one is the underlying growth. Sometimes there could be some shifts in your portfolio. There is a large contract which you're transitioning from an onshore model to offshore model. There could be some deflation. But if you just peel the onion and look at the underlying growth, that is actually getting better with every quarter.
So will it be a tall order to imagine that Indian IT companies or Indian IT sector per se will come back to double-digit growth?
It's not a straightforward answer, but if is there an opportunity? Yes. Can you be relevant? Can you be more aggressive in adopting new technologies and working with your clients, showing them the art of the possible? I do think there is an opportunity for the industry.
Do you see your billing rates improving? Because as complexity improves, from call center to pure coding to body shop, complexities are improving now.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, my own challenge to some of the teams in our organization is, can you double the revenue with the same headcount? Right? And it's not possible in every area, but there are some areas where it can be done, because a lot of lower end work is definitely getting commoditized, much more automated. Now, the people who are getting released from that, can we create higher value out of that, out of the people? I think that's the challenge. There is a productivity unlock, which is releasing human capital. Now, can the human capital be used to create new value? So I think if you just follow that path, the realization should increase.
HCL Tech has been rewarding shareholders a lot, giving dividends. About 85% of the total incremental cash flow goes back into
almost
the hand
90%.
of, almost 90% goes back into the hand of shareholders. Will that policy continue, or you'll have to conserve some cash because you're investing now?
Yeah, so we have a policy in 2021 that we announced for 5 years. So 2026 it will be done. The policy will be will have to be renewed. That's something which we will look at the board and decide. But even outside that, the free cash flow that we convert is almost 120% of our net income. So we already have close to $3 billion in our balance sheet. So we do have the capacity to invest or do whatever is needed to continue to reinvent the business. That's where we are now.
We're in 2025. I'm going to just take the clock to 2030. I'm not getting into numbers. I'm not getting into a guidance, but I'm just trying to get a sense of where HCL Tech could be. Hypothetically, if we meet the same NASSCOM conference in 2030, clarity would have emerged on AI.
Absolutely, yes.
What else do you think we are likely to be discussing?
I think the business model of the linearity between people growth and revenue growth would have got decoupled. We're already seeing the decoupling. Ideally, every company should be able to grow maybe at least 5% without adding more people, right? And if there is a lot of growth, then obviously you add more people. So I think that will get very firmly embedded. The people-based services, it should it would evolve much more intensely for more platform-based services. Input-based services will become more output and outcome-based. Just people services could have people plus IP and solutions. So these are the shifts that we have to drive, and I think the market will drive that shift.
Every business also has this competitive landscape. How would you define your competitive landscape? Is it coming from peers? Is it coming from global delivery center, or is it purely coming from the startups or SaaS companies now?
No, I think SaaS and startups are obviously bringing some good innovation, but our competition is really the large tech services firms whom we constantly kind of come across. I think that landscape is not changing. Of course, the cloud providers and hyperscalers, while we partner with them a lot, they also did shift some market share of the client spend, which was coming to a service provider, went into a hyperscaler. Even today, the software companies, the proportion of spend with software companies, software product companies, in the IT services spend has gone up significantly over the last 10 years. And the services spend as a proportion has come down. Even though overall services is growing, if you take $100 client wallet, services, whatever proportion, it was 30 or 35, has come down. But software has gone from 15% to almost 30%. So I think there is definitely profit pools shifting, and we have to reinvent ourselves to be in the right profit pools as AI takes center stage.
Couple of last questions, and I promise I'll not extend my appointment beyond that. HCL Tech has differentiated itself from peers in many ways. One, you had a focus on Europe. B, you had a very strong focus on the infrastructure, IMD vertical.
Engineering services.
You never had a large focus on India, unlike what a TCS on perhaps Infosys had.
Yeah.
What will change now for HCL Tech? Would you come back to India? Would you move away from Europe?
No, India is a big focus area, not so much in services, but we also have a $1.5 billion software business, which is the largest software business out of Asia. So we are very strongly focused in Indian market for the software products. And they are like security and marketing automation. We announced a very large deal with SBI for the entire MarTech stack, which is under implementation. So we are focused in specific areas, but we are not so much focused on the services. But that's also changing. I mean, in India, we've always been selective, and that strategy will continue.
The other differentiating factor for HCL Tech is that it never shied away from making acquisitions. If I just look at the list of acquisitions what HCL has done, both on absolute and a relative basis, I think the number is well into double digit.
Yeah.
Will that be a constant strategy?
Not necessarily. Right now we have full service capability, so maybe a little bit acquisitions are possible. But I mean, if you look at HCL's history, we are the youngest among the large IT services companies, right? And then we've caught up on growth, and a lot of metrics we've caught up because of a very creative and entrepreneurial kind of mindset. Of the 5 big services which contributes to the bulk of the Indian IT landscape, 3 of them have been built or pioneered by HCL Tech, whether it is remote infrastructure management, engineering services, now the software products business. So I think we are always going after new areas, and which is not only creating big business for us, it's also creating big industries.
All right, so that was the exclusive